Hey mathematics learners, welcome to Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. On today's video tutorial, guys, we are going to be tackling question 3.1. And in question 3.1, guys, we are basically going to be calculating perimeter, right, of a rectangular window frame. We are going to be calculating an area of a circle, and we are also going to be dealing with probability, right? We're going to be tested on concepts that we learned on probability. Before we get started with today's video tutorial, guys, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Please make sure that you click on that notification bell so that you get notified every single time I upload a new video tutorial, guys. And also, don't forget to give this video tutorial a huge thumbs up because that really goes a long way in helping the channel grow and in also helping the channel to reach more learners that want to better their mathematics marks, right? And guys, if you also just truly appreciate the content that I'm creating for you guys here, you can also just click on that thank you button. That will also go a long way in keeping the lights on for this channel. Okay, so without any further ado, guys, let's get started with today's video tutorial. So like I mentioned in today's video tutorial, guys, we are going to be tackling question 3.1. And question 3.1, guys, is under the topic of measurements. Okay, we're going to be calculating area. We are going to be calculating perimeter. And there's also a question. The last question is probability. Okay, so let's have a look at the information that is given to us, right? Tejo is renovating her home. She is removing the wooden framed windows and is replacing them with aluminum framed windows. Okay, the dimensions and the shape of two of the window frames are given below. In the rectangular window frame, 4 windows can open, right? It has 3 sections, A, B, and C. The circular window frame has no windows that can open, right? So we are basically being told that Utejo is renovating a home. So she is basically tired of the wooden frames and she basically wants to now renovate or replace them with aluminum framed windows. Okay, so we are told that we are given the dimensions are as well as the shape of the 2 windows, right? We are told that there's a rectangular window frame and we also have a circular window frame. We are told that with the rectangular window frame, 4 windows can open. So let's just quickly understand what that means. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 windows that can open out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So out of the 7, there's only 4 windows that can open on our rectangular window frame. And on our circular window frame, guys, we are told that no windows can open there. Okay, then we're also given dimensions. We are told that with our rectangular window frame, the outer dimensions of the window frame is that the length, right? So we know that the length, guys, is the longest length, so, or the longest dimension, right? So the length for our rectangular window frame is from A to C. So that is basically our length there, right? It's 55 centimeters for A, and then plus the 99 centimeters for B, plus the 55 centimeters for C. So if you were to basically add all those dimensions together, you'll find that actually the length from there to there for our rectangular window frame is actually 209 centimeters, right? And then we're also told that the width of our rectangular window frame is 149 centimeters. Cool. Then we go to our circular window frame here. We are given the inner diameter, right? Because we see that there's actually an outer diameter and there's also an inner diameter. So we're given just the inner diameter, and we saw that the inner diameter is 605 millimeters. Okay, then they were super generous with this question. We are given the formulas that we can use to calculate the area of the of our rectangle, to calculate the area of a circle, right? Perimeter of a rectangle, as well as the circumference of a circle. Okay, guys, circumference is the same as perimeter. It's just the length around the outer or the outline of our circle. So the circumference is just the outline of our circle. So if you were to just put a string our wool around the outline of our circle, what would be that length? So that is the circumference, okay? Same thing with the perimeter. If you were to put just a string of wool around our rectangular window frame, right? String around, string around, string around, string around, okay? That would be the perimeter of our rectangle. So that is basically what perimeter means. It's just the length around the outline of our shape, okay? That is perimeter. Circumference, also the length around the outline of our circle. Okay, so I think we've basically analyzed the information that's basically given to us. I think we're more than ready to have a look at the questions that are given to us. Okay, let us have a look at the first question. It says that determine the perimeter of the rectangular window frame. In this case, everything is nice and simple because we are given what the formula for the perimeter of our rectangle, right? And the formula for the perimeter of our rectangle is equal to 2 length plus your width. So let's just write that down. All right, so then we can see, guys, from this picture that is given to us, the length of our rectangular window frame is the length from A all the way to C. So it's that 55 centimeters plus 99 centimeters plus 55 centimeters. Okay, so that is basically how we're going to get the length, right? So I'm just going to do a side note here. Okay, we are given that the width is that distance there, and that is actually 149 centimeters. So our width is 149 centimeters. Okay, so therefore we are ready to plug everything into our formula. So perimeter is equal to 2, right? Then the length is 209 centimeters plus our width is 149 centimeters, right? Then if you basically plug that into your calculator, you'll find that the perimeter of our rectangular window frame is 716 centimeters. Let's say, for example, they didn't give us the formula for perimeter, right? How would we then calculate the perimeter of this window frame from what I told you guys about the perimeter? All that you need to do then, if let's say for example they didn't give you the formula of the perimeter for your rectangular window frame, right? You were just gonna literally add the length from there to there plus the length from there to there plus the length from there to there plus the length there to there, right? So we know that the length from A to C is 209 centimeters, right? Then the length from this point to that point is 149 centimeters. Then we know that the length from that point to that point is still 209 centimeters because that is opposite that point. So those lengths are equal, and then plus the length from there to there is still 149 centimeters, right? Like I mentioned, when you're calculating perimeter, you're literally just adding all the lengths, right, that you have on the outline of your shape, right? So if you take the 209 plus 149 plus 209 plus 149, you will see that still you will get that perimeter of 716. Okay, but since we're given the formula, you don't really have to worry about that. But obviously I gave you guys just that additional information for what would then happen if you were not given the formula. Okay, so then we're fine, guys. That would be the perimeter of our rectangular window frame. You'll get a mark for just showing that you understand that you then add all the lengths. You'll get another mark for obviously substituting everything successfully into your formula. You'll get a final mark for your final answer. Okay, let us go on to our next question. Question 3.1.2. It says calculate the inner area in centimeters squared of the circular window frame. Guys, we know when we're calculating area is always in units squared, always in meters squared, kilometers squared, millimeters squared. Okay, area is always in units squared. So we are told that we need to calculate the inner area in centimeters squared of the circular window frame. Okay, so let's see. When we're calculating the area of the circular window frame, right, we see that to calculate this area, okay, we were given the dimensions for the inner diameter. Okay, we were given that the inner diameter, okay, question 3.1.2, we are told that the inner diameter is actually equal to 605 millimeters, right? That was the inner diameter that was given to us, right? But we are told that we need to basically calculate the inner area. Okay, so in centimeters squared. So the first thing we need to do is we basically need to first find out what is our inner diameter in centimeters. So we need to convert the millimeters that we have here into centimeters. All right. Once we've done that, we then need to obviously convert or get what the radius of this inner diameter or inner circle is, right? And once we know what the radius of the inner circle is, we can just plug in all that information into the formula that has been given to us for the area of a circle. Okay, so let's just do that. Let's just convert this 605 millimeters into centimeters, because we see that we are told that we need to have our units in centimeters squared. So we need to convert that into centimeters. So how do we convert, guys? Okay, I'm gonna just do that as a side note here, right? It's just kilometers, it's kilometers, it's meters, it's centimeters, it's millimeters, right? All right, so like I mentioned, if you want to move from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, guys, we need to obviously remember that we need to divide. Okay, so we're moving from the millimeters here, so we're moving from millimeters and we're going to centimeters. Okay, so to move from millimeters, which is a smaller unit, to like a bigger unit, we need to divide by 10. Okay, so if you take that 605 millimeters and you divide it by 10, you'll find that you will get 60.5 centimeters. So our inner diameter, right? So I write the inner diameter, right? I write it as diam, right? Inner diameter is actually equal to 60.5 centimeters. So we're happy, right? And then for us to be able to use the area formula, for a circle, guys, we need to have our radius, right? And remember in the previous video tutorial, guys, I did mention that the radius is the distance from the center of the circle, right, to the circumference. So that distance there is our radius, and that distance is basically half of our diameter, right? So since we have the diameter, then we know that the radius is equal to your diameter divided by 2. Okay, since we already found that our diameter is 60.5 centimeters, you're just going to divide that by 2. And then you'll find this is equal to 30.25 centimeters. Okay, so that is our radius. And then from here, guys, we are more than ready to substitute our values into our area formula, right? So the area of our inner circle is equal to, they gave you a 3.142, that is basically pi, but that is a pi that has been rounded off. So pi is that symbol there, it has been rounded off. It's 3.142 pi by your radius is 30.25 centimeters, and we are going to square that. So if you literally punch that directly into your calculator, guys, I'm not going to round anything off, but please take note of the instructions that you guys have been given in your exam. That basically tells you what you need to do when it comes to rounding off. But for me, right now, I'm not going to round off anything. I'm just going to write things the way I see them on my calculator. It's going to be 2875.126.375. And remember, the units for area is always centimeters or units squared, and in this case it's centimeters squared. Okay, so that is basically the area of our inner circle. Area of our inner circle is 2875.126375. Right, so how would they basically mark this question? You will get a mark for obviously just converting your inner diameter to centimeters, right? You'll get one for that. You'll get another mark for obviously realizing that to get your radius you need to divide by 2. Then you to get your 30.25 centimeters, you'll get a mark for correctly substituting your values into your formula, and the final mark that you'll get is for your final answer. Okay, and that is basically out of 4. All right, and guys, let us have a look at the last question. And this question basically deals with probability. They love probability. They love throwing it in. Question 3.1.3. One of the window panes of the rectangular window frame, write the probability as a decimal, right? So we need to follow the instructions that are given to us, right? We need to find out what the probability is as a decimal, that it is not one of the window frames that can open. Okay, guys, remember, I'm always going to say this: when you're calculating probability, probability is equal to, so in this case, we want to find the probability that it is not one of the window panes that can open. Okay, so there's basically two ways that we can basically approach this question. We can approach this probability question by actually applying the complementary rule of probability that basically states that, okay, I'll write it down here, the probability of an event happening, right? So in this case, I'll say probability of the probability that the window panes can open plus the probability that the window panes cannot open, right? So that prime there basically denotes cannot open, is equal to 1. So this is the complementary rule. So in this case, because we basically know, right, what is the probability? Actually, let's just deal with that. So the W denotes that windows can open, okay? And then when you see that W prime, windows cannot, okay? So let's just first start off by using the complementary rule to find out what is the probability that it is not one of the window panes that can open. PW prime, that is what we're looking for. Okay, so we can basically find the probability that the window panes can open, right? And then we're going to just take your 1 minus the PW. Okay, let me just write that down there. We're going to use the complementary rule. I already explained what all the symbols mean. Probability that the windows can open plus the probability that the windows cannot open is equal to 1. Guys, this is the complementary rule in probability. All right, so what is the probability that the windows can open, right? So what is the favorable outcome? The windows that can open. Okay, so how many windows can open in this case? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 windows can open, right? So 4 windows can open. So PW, the favorable outcomes is your 4 windows can open divided by the total outcomes. How many windows do we have in this rectangular window frame? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So we've got a total of 7 windows. So we're going to write that down. Okay. Therefore, the probability that the windows can open, right, is just 4/7. Okay. So how can we basically now use this to find the probability that it is not one of the window frames that can open, right? So we're basically going to substitute this value. We see that our PW, right? PW, so I'm just going to move from there to there. PW is 4/7 plus PW prime, which is equal to 1. We're looking for our PW prime, so we're just going to isolate that, right? We want to have our PW prime on its own, which is going to be equal to 1 minus, when your 4/7 goes to your right hand side, the sign changes and it becomes negative 4/7. So therefore 1 minus 4/7 will give you 3/7. So the probability that not one of the window frames can open is therefore equal to 3/7, but we are asked to write the answer in decimal form. So PW prime, right, is just equal to 0.4 2, 8, 5, 7, 1, 4, 2, 8, 6. Okay, so that is the probability in decimal form. Okay, or we can approach this question in this way. They're telling us that one of the window frames broke. What is the probability that it is not one of the window panes that can open? Okay, so in this case, we know that probability is equal to favorable outcomes over your total outcomes. So let's just start off with our total outcomes. So how many window panes do we have in this window? We basically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our total outcomes is equal to 7. And then what are our favorable outcomes? So we need to read the question, and the question basically says that what is the probability that it is not one of the window panes that can open, right? So how many window panes could not open, right? So in this case, the window panes that could not open were equal to 1, 2, 2, and 3. So 3 out of the 7 window panes could not open, right? So our favorable outcome in this case is 3. 3 out of the 7. And then from there, guys, it's straightforward and easy. You just press your SD button on your calculator and you'll find that 0.428571428. Okay, so then the probability that it is not one of the window panes that can open is just 3 over 7, which is 0.428571428. Okay, so this question, I think it is a bit tricky. It just needs you to really grasp your mind around what this question is actually just asking from you, right? Write down the probability that it is not one of the window panes that can open, right? So in this case, that basically tells us that our favorable outcomes is not one of the window panes that can open. So in other words, they're saying that our favorable outcomes, or our favorable outcome, is the window panes that cannot open. Okay, so it's a bit tricky there. Okay, so if they say not one of the window panes that can open, that means that you're focusing on the window panes that cannot open. All right, so that is your favorable outcome. And the window panes that cannot open, like I showed you here, it's just 1, 2, 3 windows out of the 7, right? Or you can basically look at your complementary rule. Your complementary rule states that the probability of the window panes that can open plus the probability of the window panes that cannot open is equal to 1, right? So in this case, because you want to find out what the probability is for the window panes that cannot open, right? We already know that the windows that can open is 4 over 7, right? And then plus the window panes that cannot open is PW prime, which is equal to 1. So we're looking for the probability of the window panes that cannot open, right? Or that it's not one of the window panes that can open, right? And that is PW prime, which is equal to 1 minus 47, right? And then still the same answer. But I think in this case, this method is straightforward and easy because we already know that our favorable outcomes, we are just focusing on the window panes that cannot open, which is 3 over the 7. All right, guys, so that is it for today's video tutorial. This as well, I think, was a very straightforward video tutorial. Everything was given to us. I think the only trick in this one is just converting your millimeters to centimeters. And I think the trick question here was question 3.1.3, because it just needs you to really just read it carefully and understand what exactly is it asking from you. Write the formula of probability, figure out what are they asking from you, read the question 3 times so that you can get your mind around it, and from there it becomes straightforward and easy. There are 2 approaches to applying question 3.1.3. You can use the complementary rule of probability if you want to just really be fancy, or you can just really just use the general rule that probability is equal to your favorable outcomes over your total outcomes. And then we already know that the window panes that cannot open is 3. The total window panes is 7, so 3 over 7, and that is the final answer. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video tutorial. I hope it was super informative. I hope it helped you guys understand everything better, and I'll see you guys on my next video tutorial. My next video tutorial, guys, we are going to be tackling question 3.2. So please make sure that you have basically clicked on your notification bell. That is it, guys, and I'll see you guys on my next upload, Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. Bye, guys.